It's Michael Wilbon from Pardon the Interruption. And he and Tony, Mr. Tony, have signed another contract there to continue their version of Siskel and Ebert. And Michael joins us now. How are you, Mike?
Dan, I'm pretty good. Wesley Snipes should be up for anything. When was the last time he worked?
Did you like that movie, White Men Can't Jump?
I actually did.
Really?
I didn't want to like it when it came out, but it had a certain charm to it, I thought.
I only liked one scene.
One scene? You remember the scenes?
Yes.
15 years later?
It was
that?
Marcus Johnson going into the convenience store to rob it, and he's got the mask on.
My goodness.
That was it.
No scenes. Woody Harrelson was charming in something other than Cheers is all I remember, actually.
Give me the movie you'd love to see a sequel, sports movie.
No, I'm not a sports movie guy, not at all. The first one I ever saw in my life is probably something to do with Lou Gehrig. But other than that, it would be Brian's song. I certainly don't want a sequel to it. I'm not a sports movie guy. I just don't see them. I haven't seen most of them.
What about Rudy?
I never saw Rudy.
What?
Dan, almost never see sports. They just let me down. I don't bother.
Mike, Rudy is a documentary. Let me start with the Clippers last night. Doc Rivers got legitimate beef here? Yeah,
but yes. I mean, more than one thing can be true. The Clippers just choked it away.
They did. That's gone lost here with Doc being upset with the officiating.
I don't know if you saw the whole. No. Doc took his team to task. I don't know what clips are being shown, but some of us are crazy enough to have stayed up, not only watched the game, but watched Doc's press conference live, all of it. And so, no. Doc took his team to task and said, we stunk, we coughed it up, we shouldn't have lost that game. But they got hosed as well. More than one thing can be true.
Yeah, the call, the out of bounds, I know Doc was adamant about that one. The Chris Paul, that was a foul on Russell Westbrook. You can't tap the elbow. That's the oldest trick in the book. When you can't block a shot, you tap the elbow. And I would have called that. I just thought these are the games the Clippers are now supposed to win because of their coach, because of Chris Paul.
Yeah.
And you can't be up 7 with 45 seconds to go and lose.
They went up 7. I literally pronounced. I was talking to a friend on the phone. It's done. And what an extraordinary night. I didn't even have any energy. I usually have no voice left. But I had already watched the Blackhawks win in overtime, and I already watched that incredible Rangers victory over Pittsburgh, and already watched the Wizards in a completely stunning result to me. And to see Chris Paul involved in those kind of mistakes was crazy.
He's Michael Wilbon. Pardon the interruption. He and Mr. Tony have signed a contract extension. When you guys set out to do this, did you use Siskel and Ebert, the movie reviewers, as a blueprint for doing that? You being from Chicago, did that factor in?
Dan, not a blueprint, but you were there for every step of this at the beginning. Yeah, I mean, not a blueprint, but certainly people talked about, at the time, remember Crossfire?
Yeah.
That was on, and people talked about that, and they talked about other things where you're going to argue. The Odd Couple and Siskel and Ebert. Yes, Siskel and Ebert very much, because Tony and I are newspaper guys. If you ask me what I am, I'm going to tell you a sports writer, even though I do precious little of that anymore. I grew up not only reading Siskel and Ebert in Chicago, but I was delivering the newspapers they wrote for, the Tribune and Sun-Times, and very much identified with them. And got to know Ebert a little bit. Never got to know Siskel, who was a different bird.
There has to be a moment when you do this show when you realize you can be a caricature, or people can laugh at you if you put on an outfit. Tony had the police officer outfit on. You guys had that last night, headdresses. That you cross over, then it's hard to cross back and say, "Well, no, I'm a journalist." Because Oberman and I had that issue where you start to have a little bit of fun, and then people then take you differently.
You're stuck.
Yeah, and then hard to sometimes have a serious topic when you've become this character on TV. So if you're talking about highlights and having fun. Then all of a sudden you go into Donald Sterling and Magic Johnson.
Yeah.
You know, you want credibility. Did you guys worry about that at any point?
Yes, I did. I don't know that Tony worried about it as much, Dan, but I did. And I think, it took a while. I mean, because there wasn't that much commentary on there wasn't that much sports commentary on television. It was all in the newspaper, which is, thank God that columnists had an evolution and a new life coming. But, and we're only talking 13 years ago. And so I think that as the whole thing evolved, it became a little easier a couple of years in. But I found it difficult, and I did feel stuck in terms of what you could do and come back from. And I never liked if you ask me what my least favorite thing about PTI is, I'm going to tell you good cop, bad cop. I can tell you that right now. Just not my cup of tea.
Mr. Tony likes that, Mike.
Oh, he likes dress-up time.
He does. He likes role-playing there.
Absolutely.
We're talking to Michael Wilbon, pardon the interruption, co-host, joining us, Dan Patrick Show. Help me out here with the Donald Sterling situation with Magic Johnson, because we've called Donald Sterling a lot of different things, but nobody's called him a liar. So why would he say Magic Johnson called him not once but twice to say, hey, I know this girl, let me help you here?
Well, I will tell you this. I don't know exactly. First of all, I would call Donald Sterling a liar in a minute. He lied during the interview. I've only made this one mistake. Really?
Well,
really?
In his mind, he's not lying.
In his mind. But I will tell you this, Dan, I talked about this yesterday on PTI. Look, I've been sitting next to Magic for years on Saturday and Sunday watching basketball games, and some of those times, particularly in the last few years, the phone will pop up, the name will come up, and it's Donald Sterling calling Magic. And I would look at Irvin and I would say, why is Donald Sterling calling you? And Sterling would call him, I'm not going to say all the time, but he would call him periodically. Mm-hmm. And he would ask for advice. Let me, come to have lunch with me. Let me take you to lunch. I want to pick your brain about something. Donald Sterling would just sort of pester Magic. And I would just say, you don't have to cooperate with Donald Sterling. And Magic, how often does he say no to stuff or anybody?
Do you think the NBA wants Magic to own the Clippers?
Yes.
Does Magic want to own the Clippers?
Yeah, I think he does. Now, I've not talked to him specifically about this in the last few days, but yes. And I know that there are owners, lots of owners now. And I did spend some time trying to report this out over the weekend. I know there are lots of owners who want Magic to own the Clippers.
One other item here. This whole Steve Kerr situation, which was supposed to be signed, sealed, and delivered.
Dan, I never bought into that.
You didn't?
No. You know Steve Kerr. You know the time when you and I were working together, we were out west. Did Steve Kerr to you seem like he was ready to get out of that life?
No. Not at all.
So I never bought it. I mean, you and I have been around Steve. We know how he likes his life, where he likes his life. Does he seem like a guy to you who seeks confrontation? Doesn't the head coach of the Knicks need to have sort of a combative element to him? And does Steve Kerr have that? I never bought that. I don't buy it now.
Okay. If you guys asked this question last night, but this had to do with Stan Van Gundy in Detroit with full control, or the head coach at Golden State, which is a better job? Detroit full control or Golden State head coach?
Well, I will say this, Steve. It's a different situation because of the people involved. Steve Kerr's got history with those guys. Not just Rick. So he's got history with the GM or president, whatever that title is, and he's got history with Joe Lacob, the owner, who didn't get along with Mark Jackson. Yeah. So Steve, I'm not going to say he's insulated. I'm not going to be that naive, but Steve's got a comfort level with those guys that I don't know. I doubt Van Gundy would have. I mean, Stan lost a job. Stan was dumped from a job after going to Game 7 of the Eastern Conference Finals. Yeah. So Stan's going to look at this differently than Steve would. But I look at the Knicks thing and say, why would Steve Kerr want to do that other than this is his mentor, he loves Phil Jackson, okay, great. But there's a better team out there. There's a place where Steve Kerr seems a more natural fit. And there's a place where he doesn't seem a fit at all, which would be New York City.
Final 30 seconds. If Donald Sterling still owns the Clippers in November,
I don't see problem in November. I see irritation and annoyance in November from the players in the league. I do see a problem if he still owns them in February. I think there's got to be some patience preached, and I think somebody's going to take up that mantle with the players. I don't see a problem in November, but there could be one down the road.
Congrats on the new contract there. Tell Mr. Tony we said hello.
Dan, I'll do that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mike. Michael Wilbon. Wilbon, as Steve Spurrier calls him.